I'm here to talk to you today about insurance. We're going to start with the actuarial tables. No, actually, I'm not. The story I'm going to tell you today is a story about how Greg, circa 2006, who at that time was an aging, rather wonky corporate human resources executive, has transformed over a few years into somebody who's just launching his first Twitter monitoring tool this week, and how the business that Greg works for is thinking about how to go from being a health insurance company to being something different. Just a quick poll of the audience, and the Canadians are not allowed to participate in this, so Tapscott, forget it. How many people here love their health insurance company? Anyone? No? No? Okay, we got one. Excellent. How many people think that health insurance is going to look the same 5 years from now as it does today? Not many more. Okay. So this is the thing that has actually inspired a lot of change in the team that I work in at Humana, which is called our Innovation Center. This is a group that's been together for about 8 years, but I've only been there for the last couple. When I came to Humana 5 years ago, I worked in human resources. And our CEO does something interesting every year. He takes a group of 10 or 11 people from around the company, kind of up-and-coming leaders, and brings them together and says, I want you to solve a problem. Now, part of this is a leadership development exercise, meaningless, doesn't matter. But part of it is you never know what you're going to get when you bring people from different disciplines and throw them together and give them a problem. So in 2006, the problem that my team was asked to solve, I was the HR person on this team, we were asked to solve the problem of how can we, Humana, build a deeper emotional commitment with our consumers? How can we build a deeper emotional commitment? And so we jumped into this thing with zeal. We started doing research. We started studying. In fact, the #1 book on our reading list was a book called Mavericks at Work, authored by Bill Taylor. So put a little plug in there. We started doing focus groups because we figured if we're going to build emotional commitment with consumers, we better figure out what consumers think. So we went in just full of vim and vigor, and we said, okay, tell us what you think about insurance. Tell us what you think about health insurance. Tell us how you like the experience you're having. And what we heard wasn't very heartening. What we heard was that we were a necessary evil, that we were too expensive, that we were too confusing, that people didn't feel like we were on their side. And it gave us an idea for the first time, truly, of what business we were in. And if you could flip that slide up there for me, Jeff. We realized that we were in a business about sickness and death. Now, is this hyperbolic? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But when you think about the healthcare system today, the healthcare system that we have is not about health. It is about managing sickness. Now, this is a pretty depressing thing. And to think that a company that is in the sickness and death business could build a deep level of emotional commitment with its consumers is probably a little bit of a stretch. So we said to our focus group, you know what, let's stop talking about insurance for a while. Let's talk about something else. We had an idea. We had a focus group that had people of all age ranges, sort of health statuses, and we asked them a question. We said, rate your health on a scale of 1 to 10. Tell us how healthy you are. The vast majority of those people rated themselves a 7 or 8. Now, this was a really puzzling thing for us because we had people in this room that you'd expect that from. They're 20 years old, never been sick a day in their lives. But we also had people in this group that were in their 60s that were battling chronic epilepsy or diabetes. And we couldn't figure out how is this person a 7 or 8 on the health scale. But that's when we came up with sort of our big aha, which is consumers don't think about health the way the health system does. Consumers think about it totally differently. Health is an enabler to do the things that they want to do in life. And that means that if you're healthy enough to do the things that you want to do, you're healthy. So we started thinking about how could we start thinking as a business about health the way our consumers think about health. And so as we're putting together this response for our CEO, we said, what if Humana stopped being a sickness and death business? And what if we were a life and happiness business? Now, this caused no small consternation among our little team, thinking about who was going to be the one holding the remote when we suggested to this health insurance company that we should be a life and happiness business. We've got it licked. So we debated for a long time about whether we should soften this up. It's not really life and happiness. We can make it something a little easier to stomach. But we thought, no, you know what? If we're going to really change things, let's go crazy. Let's talk about life and happiness. And so our team went and presented to Humana's executive committee, and we presented life and happiness to them. And there was a lot of silence in the room. And when we were done, they asked us to leave. And they debated for an hour and a half. We're sitting in the next room for an hour and a half, sweating bullets, thinking, what on earth are they doing in there? And when they called us back in, here's what they said. We're interested in this concept. We're interested in this. We don't really know what it means. So what I want you to do is I want you to go away and figure out what this means. Help us understand what this would look like. And we said, that's great. That is a great answer. The Innovation Center decided to form a team specifically to look at what opportunities do we have as a business in life and happiness, and started putting together a team to look at that. And that's when I raised my hand and said, yes, I would like to do that. And that's how I went from being a human resources executive to kind of a junior designer in an innovation center, which was a pretty radical step. And so now that we had this task to figure out what life and happiness means, we had to answer the question, how are we going to do that? What does that actually mean? And so one of the things that we realized pretty quickly is that we're going to need to be like George Costanza when he had his big change. You guys remember George Costanza's big change? Every instinct we've ever had as a business is wrong. So we're just going to do the opposite. So the George Costanza approach started to evolve. We started to think about what that really meant. Because when you ask people in healthcare, and there are a bunch of us in the room here, most people say, well, what's the opposite of sickness? They'll say, well, it's wellness. It's wellness. And we've all been through corporate wellness programs, right? You get a stuffer in your payroll and it says, eat healthy and go for a jog once in a while. It's really inspiring stuff, right? So we started thinking about, let's not even talk about wellness. Let's not make wellness the issue. Let's talk about health. Let's talk about what health really means. Let's go back to our consumers that told us health means being able to do the things they want to do. And so rather than taking the things that we wanted people to do, and remember, healthcare folks, and I think this is true across the board, we in the healthcare system tend to think about health in a very binary way. Either you're sick or you're not sick yet, all right? And we try desperately to shove you into the not sick yet category. And we know so much, we are so paternalistic, we'll tell you till we're blue in the face what you do to stay in the not sick yet category. And frankly, that's what wellness programs are for the most part, and they're not all that great. They leave a lot to be desired. So we figured, rather than taking those tired old wellness programs, tarting them up and trying to make them more fun, what if we just flipped the design problem on its head and said, we're going to look at the things that people already like to do. We've already heard that health is an enabler and helps people to do the things they want to do. Let's ask them what they want to do, and let's figure out ways to make those things more healthy. Let's not ask people to make radical behavior change. Radical behavior change in health is really hard. Let's do some easy stuff. Let's figure out what they already like to do. Let's figure out how we can fit into their life flow. And so we started developing programs that didn't look like health insurance programs. Our first big winner was a program called Freewheelin', which is a bike sharing program. And this is a program that came about because my boss liked to ride bikes. And he started thinking about, how do we get more people on bikes? Bikes are good. Bikes are healthy. Bikes are good for the environment. They lower traffic. Bikes are good. Let's do something with bikes. So one of our team members started making calls. We finally hooked up with Trek Bikes, and we put a little bike sharing program in our home city of Louisville, Kentucky for our employees to use. And of the 8,500 employees that we have in Louisville, we had 2,500 of them sign up for this thing in the first 3 weeks. We were blown away by the response. These bikes, we had 25 bikes. We were getting 100 rides a day on these bikes, and we thought, maybe we're onto something here. So we took this bike sharing program and said, let's test it. We need to test this on a bigger scale. So we took our bike sharing program to the national political conventions last summer, the Democratic Convention in Denver and the Republican Convention in St. Paul, and we did the largest bike sharing program in U.S. history. We put 1,000 bikes in each city. It's a very high-touch system. We helped fit people to the bikes. We had 7 stations in each city, and people loved it. People absolutely went nuts. They came back thinking, I haven't ridden a bike since I was a kid, and I had the best time. So we were successful enough with this that we have actually now formed a joint venture company in association with Trek and the advertising agency Crispin Porter and Bogusky. The company is called B-Cycle. Within its first week of existence, it sold a bike sharing system into the city of Denver, which will launch on Earth Day 2010. And we're hoping to bring bike sharing to every city in America, which is really exciting. Another way that we've tried to fit into people's life flow and do things they like to do, or we've been doing a lot of work with games for health. This is an area that we think is really ripe because everybody likes to play games. So we've been focusing on games for kids and games for seniors, and there are all kinds of health games. We've been really focusing on exergames, games that get people active. And so what you're looking at here is a picture of some kids in Warwickshire, England, who are playing our first in-house developed game, and actually developed with a company, a Providence company called Tellart. Matt Cottam is somewhere in the audience. Matt is a great partner and developed this game called the Horsepower Challenge with us. And essentially in this game, kids in schools get a wireless pedometer like I'm wearing on my foot here, and their steps power a school bus that drives around the world. And so as they walk into their school, their steps upload, power this web-based video game that shows their collective steps in a race against other schools. The kids really like it. It's a lot of fun. So we've started taking this concept and expanding it. We've tried to figure out what other sensors could we use to power games. How could we launch this in American schools? In fact, this past spring, we launched this program in 20 cities with 2,000 school kids who are now playing this game for the next year and a half. And the results have been really nice. What we've seen in our pilots is that the steps have gone up a minimum of 15% for these kids. And a lot of them, almost 50%, have said they've started eating better while they're playing the game. And this game has nothing to do with eating well, by the way. It's just sort of the health awareness, we think. And 65% of them are saying they're exercising with their families. Now that's pretty exciting for us because we're trying to get people to be healthy. We want everybody to be healthier. So as we're going along here, I think the next wave for us is going to be around social in health. And that's what I've been working on with my team, and it leads to this tool that I referenced. We all know there have been some really good studies that show that the impact of an individual's social network on their health can be really profound. The Framingham study, backed up by a study some folks up the road in Cambridge have done, have really showed the impact of personal networks on health. And so we're looking at ways that we can connect with people to either form or to get involved with health communities that are going to help them to become healthier, that'll be their platform to become healthier. And on top of it all, what we're really trying to do, because remember, we're a business. We are a for-profit public company. We're trying to figure out what is the next business model around health. There are none that have been phenomenally successful so far, but we've got a burning platform for change. We've got a group of 30,000 employees who are really kind of fired up about the mission that they're on. We've got an executive team that has been tremendously supportive of this direction. And so that's where we're taking it. And as I wrap up, I wanted to show you this new toy that I've been putting together. Jeff, if you could help me pull that up, that would be great. This is something that we've been having a lot of fun with, and I think it's an example of how we think about innovation in the Innovation Center. To launch all of these products that we built out of the Innovation Center, we have to do all of our own marketing and advertising and community building around them in order to make them effective. So we've sort of bootstrapped ourselves into some social media skills. Who knew? But what we found is for these campaigns that we were working on, none of the tools that were out there were really meeting our needs, because what we really wanted to do was we wanted to be able to track how people were talking about these things that we were doing, but in locations. So when we do the Horsepower Challenge and it launches in Duluth, Minnesota, we want to know what people are saying about it in Duluth. So because there weren't any tools out there, we didn't stop. We actually borrowed a couple of developers from our IT team and have built in-house this tool that we call the Tweet Positioning System. Has anybody out here seen the movie Office Space? Yeah, then you'll no doubt like the reference to working on your TPS reports. I'm going to go ahead and need you to come in on Saturday, Peter, to work on your TPS reports. We haven't licked the cover sheet yet. We're working on the cover sheet. This is a product that has launched in limited beta yesterday, which we're really excited about. And what you can do with this tool is you can actually enter a search. I have BIF-5 in here conveniently, and you can see in these hotspots around the map where the action is happening. Now, there are other geo mapping features around Twitter where this is not the only site that does this, but what's kind of unique about it is that you can actually interact with the tweet stream through the map. So you can click on the hotspots on the map to actually change the tweets that are here. So you can see in Duluth, Minnesota, who is actually talking about you. And the other thing, another thing that's kind of cool is we're mapping co-occurring words. So in the graph here, you can see around the subject that you're talking about, what are the other things that people are talking about. So you can do sort of a micro thumbnail assessment of sentiment around your topic. And then you can actually save your searches. Which is kind of cool. So you can see on an ongoing basis how things change. Now, this is just one thing that we're working on. It's one social tool, but it's something that I think emphasizes the fact that we're trying to do things differently. We're trying to turn things on their heads. We're trying to do things that are not in line with the corporate way of doing things. And social has been a great way for us to think about that, because in the collaborative revolution, as you all know, it's really a ground-up kind of thing. And corporations, at least in America, tend to operate in a very control-oriented, top-down fashion. And so introducing the concept of social and the way that we work and the tools that we develop is going to help us, I think, to transform that business from being a health insurance company to a health company that's really reactive to the needs of its consumers to have fun and be more healthy. So that's it. Thank you.